Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Lori, and we are talking all about you and your toxic and negative traits. We're only going to talk about 3 today. There's like hundreds, right? And if you want me to expand further on this in the podcast, which is about 30 minutes long, and go through other things with it, let me know down here in the comments. I'd appreciate it. So let's jump into it, all right? So I'm just gonna give you 3 today, but like I said, there's so many more. You're not born negative, right? You're not just born negative and it's not like, oh my God, you're so toxic. So let's first be very clear that people aren't toxic and people aren't negative. They carry those traits, right? And that's gonna always come from like our experiences and different things. Cool, but remember, reason, not excuse. Our past traumas are always a reason, but not an excuse to be the way that you are today. 2 totally different things. So a lot of times though, you will carry some of that unhealed trauma and it will manifest itself into negativity, negative traits, negative reactions, can be super toxic to other people. And one of those people, goodness, one of those things is expecting you out of people. You've heard me say this 8 million times. Just because you do something a certain way and you like things a certain way and how you would respond to someone in a certain way, just because you do that does not mean that they have to do that. Okay, they do not. They don't have to call you on your birthday. They don't have to do all of that, which kind of goes into the 3rd trait, but I'll talk about that in a minute. This doesn't mean that you have to rock with it, right? I'm not asking you to just roll over and none of your needs are going to be met. I'm not asking you that. But what I am saying is that what you have to realize is that people are allowed to do things different. They're allowed to vote different. They're allowed to think different. They're allowed to respond differently. That's the beautiful thing that we call life, right? Now, again, it could be a family member. It could be any of that. But you cannot sit there and constantly be in a state of like, well, I would do this. They're not doing this. Okay, if you don't feel as though they're meeting some expectation, which again, want to dial that down, just because you may end up finding yourself very alone because you're going to keep thinking everybody needs to call you on your birthday. Everybody needs to do these things with you. Again, that goes into the entitlement, which I guess I can just roll right into that now. And that is drop your entitlement. Drop your entitlement. So just because you have older kids or different things, stop thinking that you are entitled to their presence. It is Christmas. You must show up for Christmas because I'm your grandmother, I'm your mother, I'm your wife, I'm your what? Well, wife might be a little different. And even then it's not even an entitlement. That's more of a, hey, this is what we do. But if you have adult kids and various things like that, stop doing the guilt trippy things. Stop doing the expectations things. And I expect you to show up and you owe me some sort of thing. They do not. Stop that. Stop thinking that you are entitled to someone's time, that you are entitled to changing their life, that you're entitled to these things. Newsflash, you are not entitled. If you're walking around entitled and expecting, because they kind of go hand in hand, right? Expecting you out of someone or expecting you, just because you would show up and you constantly have a hard time saying no and everything is yes, 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 and you run into somebody and they're with a solid no and they're not giving you a whole bunch of feedback, they're not wrong. They are strong in their boundaries. Just because you're not doesn't mean that you're entitled to change their narrative. So those are two toxic traits that kind of go hand in hand. And you know, so here's another one too. Your toxic trait, and again, I guess they all sort of intertwine, is expecting someone to be this idea, like this idea that you have of someone, of what they should be to you, right? They don't even know this. Like, it's like, you are my person. You should be this way. This is the idea that I have for you. And then they don't align with that idea and you're like, oh my God, they're toxic. I can't with this. You chose to put them in that narrative into their timeline. And it's not okay, right? Now, it can get a little tricky, but still the same, is let's say you've been with somebody for a while and they just totally did a flip switch. They just totally got brand new, which is fine. They're allowed to do that. That's called growth. You may not like their growth and you may say that's going backwards. You may, whatever you want to say, it's for you to feel, it's for you to process, right? But stop getting an idea of what you think a situation should be or what a person should be, that role in which they play and how they play it. Stop thinking that when they don't perform or show up the way that you choose for them to show up, they're not toxic. They're not wrong. They're just not in alignment. But if you're constantly being like, well, I wanted you to be this way and you came in strong. Listen, I tell everybody, the first 6 months of your relationship, do not sit there and think that that's the golden standard of the rest of your relationship. I'm not asking you to settle. I'm not asking you to lower your expectations of your own self and what it is you need. But don't sit there and be like, okay, when somebody comes in hot and heavy, like everybody does in any new relationship, and you feel like, oh my God, this is everything. And then they start to settle in. Life gets like life. They're not responding as fast. They're not doing all of the same things. They didn't change up. They just couldn't maintain this fakeness because it's always a certain level of fakeness. Now, I'm going to be, if I was single, I'm going to be straight up the door. If I scare you off, great. Then I know that you're not my person. I don't have to worry about it. If I don't, well, okay. Challenge accepted. Let's do this, right? But again, don't think that a person has to fit into the narrative in which you put it here. Okay, just because you haven't dealt with your own stuff, you can't deal with that. And I'll throw another one in there too. Stop complaining and criticizing to people just at your given whim. That goes into entitlement. You're like, oh, I know that you had a rough day and you just walked in the door 13 seconds ago, but I'm going to dump all my stuff on you without asking. Oh, hell no. That is evading a boundary. You don't get to dump your stuff without asking someone if they're in a space to hear your venting. And venting doesn't mean I need you to fix it and be on my side. If you're going to vent, you vent. But if you're criticizing and you're complaining, and this is a trend, every day you're complaining about work, every day what are you doing about it? Where are you trying to find the solution? Complaining about it does nothing. And check yourself. All those times you're blaming other people and pointing fingers at other people, are you doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing? Did you do your 5 journals? Have you done those today? Okay. Those things that you kept telling yourself that you were going to do last week, did you do them? Did you make a plan for them? No? Okay. Then let's not criticize other people. Your criticism of other people is only a deflection and a reflection of you. So you got to knock that off. And those are toxic traits. So again, there's so many more, and they all sort of like spiral together, right? They're all like there. But if you want me to go further with tools on the podcast, drop it down here and let me know.